Just wanted to do a quick recap of the live session I did on Wednesday. So just scrolling back to that day on the DAX, having a quick look. So we opened here, push up, came back down towards the gap over the next hour and a half or so, and then we did continue long basically for the rest of the day, or that trading session. Getting out of the R2 would have looked at about 110 points, so a really good trade there. It did move up towards the S3, but didn't quite make it. About 100 points is a really good target anyway. Stops would have been perhaps down below this price action down here on the previous day, and below the S3 as well, sorry, the R3, and perhaps just a bit above the pivot. It's about 40 points. 40 points would be right on the pivot, so you might as well bring it up a little bit, because if it's going to go to the pivot, you would get stopped out anyway, so you might as well save yourself a few points on the stop side and go for that R2 target. So that was a DAX. Wasn't really confident on the day about this actually playing out, and it did take quite some time. So a lot of people might have got in and just sort of did a blind buy, as I did mention, and hope for the best. Probably could have got about 90 points out of that, with, say, a 40-point stop would have taken you just below some of this price action, but it would have been likely to hit if it did break that close gap there. If it did continue on, there's a good chance you would have got stopped out. So a bit of a risky setup on that trading session there. We'll go over to the FTSE, the UK 100, and I'll just scroll back to the day I was referring to. And what happened was, we sort of reached this confluence here, and then opened, actually a little bit before the open, but still had opportunity to get back in. Looking at about 22 points just before the close gap. You probably would have wanted to exit early. You don't always necessarily go through and hit the pivot. So about 22 points there, with perhaps a 20-point stop if you wanted. Usually go 30, that's right up here, so you probably could have taken a bit of a tighter stop. 22 points, could have bought off that close gap potentially for about 50 points over the rest of the day, but there is every chance the market could have gone down to this confluence down here, these set of levels, which was about 30 points away. You probably could have just did a buy and put a stop below that and see how you go, but that's a really good starting trade at the open there. If you had have got in a little bit early and just hoped that the market didn't push higher at the open, probably looking at about 25 points. So really good trade. I was fairly confident on the FTSE, but not so confident on the DAX, but it did play out as described, so that's really good. Going over to the Friday trading, didn't trade on the Thursday, but have a look at where we opened. Basically opened again right near that close gap, so we pulled down, basically touched the gap, and went long effectively for the rest of the day. Had you have moved your stops to break even at an entry near the close gap for a long, you would have got stopped out later in the day. However, if you had have just left the stop loss where it was, you'd still be in that position now, and it's about over 150 points. So really strong move long there if you were bullish on the DAX. Jumping over to the FTSE, basically the same layout as the Wednesday, so we kind of hovered around this level here, the breakout long, the R1 and the previous day's high. Did have an extreme gap there, so more probable that we come down and actually connect with that level, and we did also reach the close. So getting short from these levels, and particularly at the open, if we did get in at that spike up there, for example, looking at maybe 20 points, 15 to 20 points, but it was quite likely that that would happen because that extreme gap's there. You've got the layout of the breakout and these levels here kind of propping it down to then target these levels here. Two strong targets at the open, and then a potential buy straight after that, all the way up to the R3. However, a lot of people would have got out at about 30 points because the range isn't always that long on the FTSE. So really good trade, very similar days on the Wednesday and the Friday this week. So congratulations to anyone who got in on those plays and whoever followed that insight that I provided on Wednesday. That's it from me today, guys. Have a good one.